I am really, really sorry. I know at the main stage, you guys have gotten to hear me talk a lot, and that's been great, right? But you've been very, very patient. This time I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be talking about something with some substance. I've been getting to introduce really brilliant speakers, but now I'm going to talk about something I'm really interested in, which is automation. So before I start, I'm really aware that as an American, I tend to talk very, very quickly. A quick show of hands. Who here is a native speaker of English? Who has English as your first language? Cool. So if I say something that's too fast or you don't understand, go ahead and just go like this right here. Nobody else will see you, nobody's looking at you, but I'll be able to see that and I'll just be able to say it over again in a way that you might understand a little bit better. So if you don't understand anything, don't wait till the end, just go, Jess, what? Yeah. So to give you a little bit of background about myself, my name is Jessica Rose, as you might have caught. And a long time ago, I'm from the States, but now live in Britain. I'm a big fan of Europe. And before I worked in technology, I worked as a teacher. So I think there's going to be a couple of times in this talk where I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, tell me what you think. It's okay. I'm not going to call on you. I'm not going to make you stand up. It's going to be very safe and calm. But now, I'm the head of developer relations for Dreamfactory. And Dreamfactory, I'm a little bit biased. Of course I love them, they pay me. But the way they got me to take the job is I'm really, really interested in access. When I was a teacher, I really cared about students being able to access knowledge, being able to access learning material. And when I moved into technology, I really cared about things that made it easier for developers, especially easier for individual developers or small teams to really win. So when my company now came to me and said, Jess, do you want to work with us? I said, you seem nice, okay. And they said, well, we automate API creation. I was like, oh, that's really cool. But the team was really passionate about this. They said, you know, we automate API creation because it makes development more accessible for developers. We do this because it lets developers focus on the things they really love. And I had been sort of like, that's cool, that's cool. And as soon as they said, what we really care about is making things better, making development faster, making development easier, I was in. I was like, yeah, I'll take that job. That job sounds amazing. And I think it gets really difficult because in technology, we really recognize the accomplishments of the individuals. We have the Mayers, we have the Zuckerbergs, we have the Gateses. We have these big personalities who've done giant things. But oftentimes they have quite a bit of capital behind them. Not necessarily at the beginning, but fairly early on when you see the Googles develop, when you see the Microsofts develop, you see people who have a big team working with them, people who have a lot of money, and people who have a lot of resources. And it's difficult because we do have these great individual things, but a lot of times it's really difficult for new individuals to sort of play and win against the big players. So I warned you that I was a teacher and you would have to put your hand up. Who here works on a team of less than 25 people? Yeah, for folks on the video, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, everybody. Maybe like 4 or 5 people. Who here is independent? Who works by yourself? Oh, there's a couple of you. Hello. You're saints. It's very, very difficult. And traditionally in technology, even though we worship, well, worship sounds a bit strong, even though we really love these individuals, we love these big names, we love the Mayers and the Zuckerbergs for making it big and having a dream, really big industries tended to win a lot. They were resource heavy and they really, and in some ways still do, so it had the resources to throw up problems that were really, really interesting. Yeah. Up until really recently, if you wanted to win, if you wanted to build a product, launch it, and then get it out at any kind of scale that was powerful, you needed a lot of things. You needed some pretty expensive infrastructure. Up until very recently, you had to buy a bunch of servers or then rent a bunch of servers. And now you just stick it in the cloud. Expensive tooling. Dev tools have traditionally been incredibly expensive, and that's only recently changed. I think one of the biggest things is you needed to have internal skills or external skills. You need to find somebody who could do all of the things that needed doing. And you needed time. You needed time to build stuff, to try things out, and to fail. And I think the part that's still really true is you need money to support all of this happening. But I think this is changing. Slowly, and only maybe. I'm not going to pretend that we have a true meritocracy and everybody's idea stands on their own 2 feet and everybody gets a fair shake. We're not quite there yet. These things still matter. This matters a lot. But I think we've got a couple things happening in technology that are making it a lot easier for smaller players to win. And the one I really, really care about is automation. I think automating developer processes is a really, really interesting way to scale and win. But first, I'm going to show you about the other ones. So yeah, automation. I'm going to give you a spoiler because I'm clearly talking about automation. But the other ones, shared infrastructure, the ability to go ahead and throw something up in the cloud and get it launched now instead of waiting to purchase something is incredible. Pay-as-you-go credit? That's brilliant. Access to educational materials. You don't need to go to university. You don't need to go to a training class. If you really, really want to learn how to use Docker, there are tons of people building you free and low-cost material around how to get started with packages or anything else you're really passionate about. I'm so interested in open source and low-cost tooling. People are building dev tools and just putting them out into the world for free. It's gorgeous and it's beautiful. And if you're working on open source dev tools, come and talk to me after this and I'll try and give you a hug. But we're going to focus on automation really fast. Cool. Put your hands up if you have any part of your development process automated. Who's automated anything internally? All right. Okay. I thought there were people being hesitant, but we've got a bunch of people going, yeah, and a couple people going, sort of. If you've gone, sort of, come and see me after this and tell me what you're doing, because that's a really interesting reaction. And when you hear people talk about automation, I've often people say, oh, you know what, automation is an incredible thing if you want to fail faster. And I think that is absolutely true. I think automation is an amazing way to fail faster so you can focus on learning the things you really need. And this seems a little bit weird. I'm just really, really excited about failure. I think failure is so interesting, and here's why. I think that as we fail, we learn. And this is a little bit of a weird one because I think you don't need to learn everything you're doing. You don't need to learn every bit of your development process. So let's say we need to do, or we need to learn X. X is the thing. X is what we're doing. If my team, or if I as an individual, I need to know how to do X. I need to understand X. X is so important to my product. I'm going to try to do it, and I'm going to fail. But I'm going to try to do it again, and I'm going to fail again. But you know what? I could try and do it, and I can try and do it, and I can try and do it, and eventually I've got it. If this is important, if I need to know how to do X, spending the time, investing that time, and trying and failing is so important. But what if X is not my core business? What if X is something that needs to be done, but not something I need to know? I need to do X. This needs to get done. I automate doing X. That's fine. X is done. I don't need to know it. I just need it done. With that done, I can move on and fail at the things I really need to understand. What do I mean when I mean automation? So when I say automation, do you think about testing? Say 1, 2, 3, yes or no? Now let's try it again. When I say automation, do you think testing? Yes. I totally mean testing, but I mean other things too. Automation is brilliant and weird. So I'm just going to run through a couple of examples of different kinds of automation really quickly. And some of them are going to be really familiar, and some of them are hopefully going to be new projects. Has anybody played with IFTTT? Yeah. IFTTT is one of my favorite examples of sort of the core of what automation means. And I usually use this as an example when I'm talking to non-technical audiences. So when you're talking to developers and architects and brilliant people who are already making software and building for the web, we generally understand what automation means. But if I'm talking to students or if I'm talking to new technologists and I say, oh, you can automate parts of your process, that's scary. It's a new idea. Automate what? Will it write my code for me? What does it do? Where do I get it? Do I pay someone? IFTTT, if this, then that, I always flub that, is a really, really interesting service that lets you connect disparate services and have them trigger each other. So if I say, I want to connect my Facebook account because I'm old enough to still be on Facebook, I want to connect my Facebook account to my Instagram. So whenever you see someone tag a picture of me, take it off of my Facebook and put it onto my Instagram. That would be a really vain thing to do, but it's a really, really easy way to get people understanding processes watching and waiting and acting for you. So it's a really, really interesting way to look at automation. Yeah. If someone posts a picture to Instagram, put it in my Dropbox. If somebody posted a picture to Instagram, turn my lights blue. There are so many different ways you can automate completely useful, wonderful things, and there's so many ways you can automate really, really bonkers things that have no purpose. I think that if I talked about automation and didn't talk about Dreamfactory, they might fire me. But I also think it's legitimately cool. So Dreamfactory is an open source platform. You can just go ahead and connect up all of your databases, data sources, or even your APIs. And it acts as a layer in the middle that automatically generates the APIs as you need them. So if you say, I need an API for a project, maybe that's not valuable to automate. If you say, do you know what? I've got an Internet of Things project, and I need, I don't know, 450,000 unique REST APIs with security. I might automate that for reasons. If you really want to, you can go ahead and handcraft some artisanal API, but I'm not gonna. But talking about my own product is a little bit silly. I want to focus on other people's stuff that's really, really interesting. I love RMAD. RMAD's one of my favorite things right now. And it's the idea of rapid mobile app development. And I know for a lot of developers, it seems really simple. It seems really drag and drop. It seems a little bit juvenile. And I think as an industry, we might be a little bit fast to discount the value of things like RMAD. RMAD is the if this then that of app development. So you can go ahead and say, and I'm using Guyver as an example. I don't work for them. I don't have anything to do with their project. So if I'm wrong, somebody from Guyver, please fuss at me. But having played with Guyver, it's a really interesting way to build internal applications that don't always have to look beautiful. So you say, I'm going to connect up these data sources. I'm going to set these permissions. I want a user to be able to log on. And you could just drag in. I want them to log on with Facebook, which would be weird for an internal application unless you worked at Facebook, but there you go. You say, I want them to be able to take photos. I want them to be able to post photos. I want them to be able to add notes. You could just go ahead and clip on the components of your development and have it build the code out for you. This is absolutely one of my favorite things right now because it doesn't only speed things up. It doesn't only free us up to build interesting client-facing things, but it also makes development look a lot less mysterious for people who are just getting into it. I love automation. I love, love, love open source dev tools. Buildbot is one of the best things in the entire world. In Romania, do people know the word hyperbole? Yeah, hyperbole is the idea that instead of saying, oh, that's quite good, you say, this is the best thing in the entire world, it's the only thing that matters. And I think in technology, we use it quite a bit. And it's been difficult because I've been saying, this is wonderful, this is the best, this is my favorite thing. If possible, this is my favorite thing right now. It's a really, really great way to automate the parts of your development process that make you the most miserable. I've only got a couple minutes, so I'm not going to exhaustively walk you through what it does. I really recommend checking them out and seeing what they're doing. It would be really great to say, hey, you can just automate things, and it's going to make development fair for everyone. If we automate everything, we can go ahead and have an even playing field where everybody can win. And that would be a really nice thing to tell you. I would love to say, hey, automation is here, and now technology is completely fair for everybody. But I'm a pretty bad liar. Capital still absolutely matters. If you have a brilliant idea, if you get it built, finding the money to market it, finding the money to get users using it, finding the money to get people involved with your brilliant idea still matters right now. We've got some really, really interesting ways to sort of subvert that. You could say, what if we deal with capital differently? What if we deal with funding differently? And I think as we look to get more and more fair and more equitable in development, these are questions we still have to ask ourselves. And cultural and structural issues remain barriers. This is completely unfair. This is not okay. This is absolutely something we can fix. But I think right now, in June, in 2016, having a brilliant idea and building a brilliant product, it still matters who you are and where you come from, and really where you're based. I love getting to give this talk in tech centers that the world isn't paying enough attention to yet. There's absolutely no reason that VCs, that people giving out the money, should care more about your project if you're in San Francisco than if you're here in Bucharest. You're having the same kinds of brilliant, world-changing ideas, and I would love to see the industry better embracing that. And at the end of the day, we can't change the way capital works right now. We can't change the structural barriers to technology right now. But we've got a really great opportunity on the individual level to support each other better. Technology feels so competitive, but there's so much space to support each other. We've got an incredible amount of really, really great startups up there. Going upstairs and seeing what people are doing and talking about your ideas and sharing. It feels like helping people is giving something away a lot of the time. And I think that's a mindset I really want to change. We're all sort of doing it together, and we've got brilliant new tools. We've got automation, we've got free education materials, we've got shared infrastructure. But I think at the end of the day, technology is still about humans. We're people building things for people. And unless we're part of the system supporting each other, and even saying, hey, I just saw a talk about automation. Have you thought about automating these processes? Might be kind of cool. Being able to support each other individually is one of the most incredible ways to make tech the place we want to be. Thank you so much for all your time. And I know making you clap and staying on stage is really weird. But if you did like my talk and wanted to get in touch, you can go ahead and take a picture of that. If you really, really liked my talk, you should tweet those people. If you thought this was completely ridiculous and the worst thing you ever heard, you should probably tweet me directly and not get my boss involved. If you have a long question, email's good. And here's all the examples that I've gone through. So if you wanted to have a play with anything I mentioned, I really, really like these. And if you want to chat to me afterwards, I'd love to tell you about other automation processes I like. Thank you again.